I walked into that bank lobby feeling the weight of the world on my shoulders, my boots still muddy from the fields where I'd been working since dawn. My name is Marcus Johnson. I'm 45 years old, and my life has always revolved around that family farm. 120 acres passed down from my grandparents who broke their backs to buy it after sharecropping for years. I've poured everything into it, skipping vacations, fixing equipment myself to save money, watching my kids grow up knowing hard work, all while dealing with the quiet stares and whispers that come with being a black man in this town. But that day, I needed a loan bad. Drought had hit us hard, and without it, we'd lose the harvest and maybe the whole place. I stood there at the counter, application in hand, hoping for a fair shot. Welcome to Melina's Stories. I share new life stories here every day, and I'd really appreciate it if you hit subscribe and liked my video. Drop a comment down below telling me where you're watching from and what time it is for you, right now. I read every single comment, and it helps me to know I'm not alone in this. The banker, Mr. D. Harlan Whitaker, looked up from his desk with that fake smile that didn't reach his eyes. He was a white man in his late 50s, always in a crisp suit, known around town for his church donations, but also for the way he talked down to folks like me. "Well, Mr. Johnson," he said loud enough for the whole lobby to hear, "let's see what we got here." He flipped through my papers, shaking his head like I'd handed him trash. I could feel the eyes on me, the teller behind him, the couple waiting in line, even the security guard by the door. My heart started pounding because I knew that tone. I'd heard it before in stores, at school events for my kids, places where people assumed I didn't belong. "Credit's a bit shaky, isn't it?" Whitaker continued, leaning back in his chair. "And this farm of yours looks like it's barely scraping by. We can't just hand out money to every, well, you know." He paused, glancing at my clothes, the dirt under my nails from planting. "People who come in looking like they just rolled out of the mud." His voice carried, and a few chuckles rippled through the room. I felt my face burn, that deep humiliation twisting in my gut like a knife. I dressed in my best work shirt, but to him I was just another black farmer he could dismiss. "I'm sorry, but we're denying this application," he said, stamping it rejected with a thud that echoed. "Better luck elsewhere if they'll have you." I stood there frozen for a second, my hands clenching the counter. "Mr. Whitaker, please," I said, keeping my voice steady even though anger was boiling inside. "I've been banking here for 20 years. My payments are always on time. This loan is for equipment. Without it, my family's done." He just waved me off like swatting a fly. "Rules are rules, Johnson. We have standards." The way he said my name, without the mister, made it clear what he thought of me. People were staring openly now, whispering things like, "should have known," and these types always asking for handouts. I wanted to shout back, tell them about the nights I stayed up worrying about bills, the pride I took in my land, but I bit my tongue. Walking out, head down, I felt smaller than I ever had, like all my hard work meant nothing because of the color of my skin. That denial wasn't just about money, it hit me right in the soul, reminding me of every time I'd been overlooked or pushed aside. My wife, Lena, and our 2 kids were counting on me, and now I'd have to go home and tell them we might lose the farm. The pressure built up over years, the loans I'd been denied before for reasons, the suppliers who charged me more, the neighbors who crossed the street. It all crashed down in that moment. I got in my truck outside, gripping the wheel so hard my knuckles turned white, tears stinging my eyes that I wouldn't let fall. How could one man with a stamp erase everything I'd built? But deep down, that humiliation sparked something, a quiet rage that said this wasn't over. As I drove away, the bank's sign fading in the rear view, I replayed his words in my head. "People like you." Yeah, I knew what he meant. It wasn't my credit, it was me. I'd faced this crap my whole life, from school bullies calling me names to jobs where I was the last hired and first fired. But this time it threatened my home, my legacy. My grandparents had fought through Jim Crow to own that land, and now some racist in a tie was trying to take it away. I pulled over on the side of the road, breathing heavy, feeling isolated and betrayed by a system that never gave folks like me a fair shake. The emotional isolation hit hard. No one in that lobby stood up for me. No one questioned him. It was just another day in America for them. I wiped my face and started the engine again, heading home. Lena would be waiting, probably with dinner ready, our son Jamal helping with chores, daughter Keisha doing homework. How do I tell them? The financial desperation clawed at me. We had maybe a month before bills swallowed us whole. But that banker's sneer, his public put-down, it burned. I'd been humiliated in front of strangers, reduced to nothing because I was black and looked dirty from honest work. It wasn't fair, and for the first time I felt like I couldn't just take it anymore. Something had to change. The sun was setting as I turned onto our dirt road. the farm coming into view with its weathered barn and fields that needed rain so bad. I parked and sat there, staring at the house lights. This place was everything, where I proposed to Lena, where our kids took their first steps. Losing it would break us. That banker's betrayal of trust, acting like he was above me, it fueled a fire. I wasn't just angry, I was done being stepped on. Tomorrow, I'd figure something out. But right now the pain was raw, making me question if hard work even mattered in a world full of people like him. I finally got out, walking up the porch steps slowly. Lena opened the door before I knocked, her face lighting up then falling when she saw mine. "Marcus, what happened?" she asked, pulling me inside. I hugged her tight, not saying anything yet, just feeling the warmth of home against the cold rejection. "The loan. They denied it," I muttered. She pulled back, eyes wide. "What? Why?" I shook my head. "Same old reasons, but it's more than that." We sat at the kitchen table, kids in the other room, and I told her about Whitaker's words. The stares, the humiliation. "He made me feel like dirt, Lena, like I don't belong." She squeezed my hand. "You're better than him. We'll find a way." But even as she said it, I could see the worry in her eyes, mirroring my own desperation. That night, lying in bed, sleep wouldn't come. The racial injustice replayed over and over, the way he broadcasted it, ensuring everyone knew. It wasn't just a denial, it was a statement that people like me weren't worthy. I'd endured so much, losing my dad young to overwork, scraping by during recessions. But this felt personal. The emotional isolation wrapped around me like a blanket. Who could I turn to? Friends were in the same boat, family scattered. But in that darkness, I felt a shift, no more pleading. It was time to plan. I woke up that next morning with a knot in my stomach that wouldn't loosen. The kind that comes from knowing your whole world is teetering on the edge. The sun was barely up, filtering through the curtains in our bedroom. And Lena was still asleep beside me, her breathing steady while mine felt ragged. I'd tossed and turned all night, thinking about Whitaker's sneer and those whispers in the lobby. But I couldn't just lie there. Our farm was in real trouble. The drought had withered half our crops. And without that loan for new irrigation equipment, we'd lose the rest before harvest. Bills were stacking up and I had to try again. I slipped out of bed quietly, not wanting to wake her yet, and headed to the kitchen to grab the extra documents I'd pulled together overnight. Bank statements showing years of on-time payments, a report from the county extension office on the drought's impact, even a letter from our equipment supplier estimating costs. This had to work. I kissed Lena's forehead on my way out, whispering, "I'll fix this," and drove into town with the radio off, my mind focused on staying calm no matter what. The bank parking lot was starting to fill up when I arrived, people in suits and ties rushing in for their day, while I sat in my truck for a minute, gripping the folder like a lifeline. I took a deep breath and walked inside, the cool air hitting me along with that familiar smell of polished wood and paper. The same teller from yesterday looked up from her station, her eyes widening a bit when she saw me. "Mr. Johnson," she said softly, almost like she felt bad. "Back so soon?" I nodded, forcing a polite smile. "Yes, ma'am. I need to speak with Mr. Whitaker again. Got some more information he might have missed." She hesitated, glancing toward his office door. "I'll let him know you're here." As I waited by the counter, a few customers eyed me curiously, but I kept my head up, reminding myself this was about saving our home, not about pride. After a couple of minutes, she waved me over. "He'll see you now." I stepped into Whitaker's office, the door clicking shut behind me, and there he was, sitting behind his big desk like a king on a throne, papers spread out in front of him. He didn't even look up at first, just kept scribbling something, making me stand there awkwardly. Finally, he glanced my way, his expression turning into that same condescending smirk from yesterday. "Johnson, didn't expect to see you again so quick. What, you think overnight changes anything?" I held out the folder steadily. "Mr. Whitaker, I've brought more documents. Proof that my credit's solid. Look, here's the payment history. And this report shows the drought's a temporary hit. The farm's been in my family for generations, and we just need this bridge loan to get through. Please reconsider." He took the folder, but barely flipped through it, his eyes skimming without really reading. Still looks risky to me. Your credit score's below our threshold, and the projections for your operation, too uncertain in this economy." I felt my pulse quicken, knowing he was twisting things. "But that's not accurate. Those payments are all there on time, everyone. And the drought report says relief's coming with the next rains. Come on, I've been a customer here for 20 years. Whitaker leaned back in his chair, crossing his arms, his voice dripping with that false sympathy. "Listen, Johnson, I get it. Times are tough, but rules are rules. We can't approve loans for high-risk profiles like yours." He paused, then reached into a drawer and pulled out a pre-printed form, filling it out quickly before stamping it with a loud thud. Here, this makes it official, a written rejection letter for your records. I'll update the system right now and flag your file so there's no confusion going forward. Sign here to acknowledge receipt. He slid the paper across the desk along with a pen, his eyes cold and unyielding. I stared at it, my hand hovering, feeling the weight of that official stamp like a door slamming shut. This can't be it. Please, just one more look. My wife and kids, they're depending on this. The farm's in emergency mode. Without equipment, we'll lose everything. My voice cracked a little, but I kept it together, begging without shouting. I'm asking you, man to man. Whitaker's face hardened, and he pressed a button on his intercom. Security to my office, please. Mr. Johnson's leaving now. He looked at me like I was dirt under his shoe. That's enough. Sign it and go, or we'll handle it. The door opened a moment later, and 2 security guards stepped in. One of them the same guy from yesterday, looking almost apologetic. Sir, time to head out, the taller one said, placing a hand on my shoulder gently but firmly. I signed the paper quick, my signature shaky, then grabbed my folder and let them guide me. This isn't right, I muttered, but Whitaker just waved dismissively. Next time, come prepared or don't come at all. As they escorted me down the hallway toward the lobby, we passed the employee break area. A small alcove with a coffee machine and a couple of tables, the door propped open for air. Whitaker's voice carried out loud and clear as he talked to someone inside. Probably one of his colleagues laughing a bit. Yeah, that Johnson guy just wouldn't quit. Denied him flat out, credit's too shaky, but honestly, he doesn't fit the profile anyway. You know the type, shows up all grubby from the fields, expecting handouts. We keep standards here. The words hit me like a punch, stopping me in my tracks for a second before the guard nudged me forward. His colleague chuckled along, saying, Smart move, Harlan. Can't have that dragging down the books. I stumbled into the lobby, the guards releasing me at the door, and I pushed outside into the sunlight, my ears ringing with what I'd just heard. People in the parking lot glanced my way, but I ignored them, getting into my truck and slamming the door. Doesn't fit the profile. Yeah, I knew exactly what that meant. It wasn't about credit or risk. It was about me being black, about how I looked after a hard day's work. The humiliation burned deep, mixing with the anger from yesterday. But now it was sharper, more focused. I gripped the steering wheel, staring at the bank building, feeling that seed take root inside me. This wasn't over. I needed evidence, something solid to prove what he was doing. I needed a plan, quiet and smart, before I struck back. Driving home, I replayed his words, letting them fuel me instead of break me. Lena would be waiting, and I'd tell her everything. But first, I had to think clear. No rash moves yet. Just gather what I could to expose this for what it was. I drove home from the bank that afternoon with Whitaker's words still echoing in my head. That smug laugh about how I didn't fit the profile twisting like a knife in my gut. The truck's engine hummed steady, but my mind was racing, piecing together how I'd get evidence of his discrimination without tipping him off. Our farm came into view down the dirt road, the fields looking even drier in the harsh sunlight, and I felt a wave of exhaustion hit me. Lena was out on the porch when I pulled up, wiping her hands on her apron, her face lighting up for a second before she saw my expression. Marcus, back already? What happened this time? She asked, stepping down to meet me as I got out. I hugged her tight, breathing in the familiar scent of home, but I couldn't hide the defeat in my voice. He denied it again, made it official with a letter and flagged my file. Escorted me out like I was trash. And Lena, I overheard him telling a colleague it's because I don't fit their profile. You know what that means. She pulled back, her eyes widening with a mix of anger and fear. That's straight-up racism. We can't let him get away with that. We walked inside together, the screen door creaking behind us, and sat at the kitchen table where the kids' school drawings were still tacked up on the fridge. I laid out the rejection letter, the red denied stamp glaring back at us. I know, but we need proof, something solid. Right now, it's just my word against his. Lena poured us some iced tea, her hands shaking a little. What about other banks? Maybe in the next county? I nodded, grabbing the phone from the counter. That's my next step. I'll call around, see if anyone will listen. I dialed the first one, a small credit union about 20 miles away that I'd heard good things about from a neighbor. The loan officer picked up after a couple rings. Hello, this is Marcus Johnson. I'm inquiring about a farm loan. Got all my docs ready. There was a pause on the line, typing sounds. Johnson. From over on Elm Road? Yeah, I see your info popping up. Sorry, but we're not able to proceed. Credit concerns flagged in the system. I gripped the phone tighter. What concerns? My payments have been spotless. He cleared his throat awkwardly. It's shared network notes. Says high risk, possible default history. Can't override it. I thanked him and hung up, my heart sinking. Lena watched me, worried. No luck? I shook my head and tried the next one, a bigger bank in the city. Same story. The rep sounded sympathetic at first, but after checking my name, she said, I'm afraid we've got advisories on your account, denials from associated institutions. We have to pass. By the third call, to a local co-op lender, the guy didn't even let me finish. Johnson? Yeah, word's out, not touching that with a 10-foot pole. Sorry, pal. I slammed the phone down, frustration boiling over. How the hell does word spread that fast? It's like Whitaker's got the whole town on speed dial. Lena rubbed my back. Maybe he does. Men like him talk, Marcus. They protect their own. The kids burst in from school then, Jamal dropping his backpack by the door with a thud. Keisha trailing behind with her lunchbox. Dad! You're home early, Jamal said, grinning until he saw our faces. What's wrong? I forced a smile, not wanting to scare them. Just some grown-up stuff, son. How was school? But Keisha climbed into my lap, her small hands on my cheeks. Did the bank say no again? I heard Mom talking. Lena shot me a look and I hugged Keisha close. Yeah, baby girl, but we'll figure it out. Jamal frowned, crossing his arms like a little man. Why won't they help? Our farm's the best. I ruffled his hair. Sometimes people make bad calls. Go wash up for snack time. Pee. As they ran off to the kitchen, giggling about something from recess, I stepped outside to clear my head, staring at the barn where our equipment sat idle, rusting without the funds to fix it. That's when my cell buzzed, a text from our main supplier, Old Man Hargrove, who'd been delivering feed and seeds to us for years. Marcus, hate to do this, but can't extend credit anymore. Heard about the loan issues. Need payment up front or we're cutting ties. Sorry. I stared at the screen, feeling like the ground was shifting under me. Lena, come look at this, I called, my voice tighter than I meant. She came out, reading over my shoulder. Hargrove, but he's like family. I nodded, dialing him quick. Hey, Hargrove, it's Marcus. What's this about? His voice came through gruff but regretful. Boy, I got a call from Whitaker at the bank. Said your operation's shaky, might not make payments. Can't risk it, I've got my own bills. I felt my jaw clench. That's a lie. Whitaker's spreading rumors because, well, you know how he is. Hargrove sighed. I do, but business is business. He's on the chamber board, talks to everyone. Half the suppliers in town got the same heads up. You're blackballed, son. Fix it with him, or we're done. He hung up, leaving me standing there in the yard, the phone limp in my hand. Lena touched my arm. Marcus, but I waved her off gently, needing a moment. Another text pinged in from our equipment rental guy. Pulling the lease on the tractor, risk too high per bank advisory, pick up tomorrow. By evening, as we sat down for dinner, the hits kept coming. The mail arrived late, and there it was, a foreclosure notice from the bank itself, stamped official, giving us 30 days to catch up on the mortgage or face auction. I opened it at the table, my fork clattering down. Foreclosure? We were current until this drought hit. Lena gasped, reading it. They can't do that. We have a grace period. But the fine print cited accelerated review due to denied credit extension. Basically, Whitaker speeding things up to bury us. Jamal looked up from his plate, eyes wide. What's foreclosure, Dad? Keisha started tearing up. Does that mean we lose the house? I pulled them both into a hug, my voice steady even as my insides churned. No, we're not losing anything. I'll handle it. But after tucking them in bed, reading Keisha her favorite story about a brave farmer, I stepped into the hallway where Lena waited. This is getting worse, she whispered. Supplier's cutting us off, now this notice. Whitaker's ruining us. I paced the living room, the weight of it all pressing down. He's spreading lies to every business owner in town, chamber meetings, phone calls, whatever. Blackballing me, so no one else will touch us. Isolation hit hard then, like a wall closing in. Friends I'd known for years weren't answering texts, probably hearing the rumors and backing away. I sank into the couch, head in my hands. How did it escalate this fast? One denial, and now we're cut off from everything. Lena sat beside me, her hand on my knee. Because the system's built that way, for men like him to win. I looked up at her, despair creeping in deep. Makes me question my worth, Lena. All these years breaking my back on that 120 acres, building from what my grandparents left. And one racist banker wipes it out. Am I even fighting a fair game? She shook her head fiercely. You are worth everything. Don't let him make you doubt that. But as we turned off the lights that night, lying awake staring at the ceiling, the higher conflict swallowed me whole, rumors flying, ties severed, notices piling up. It deepened the pain, making me wonder if a black farmer like me could ever win in a town stacked against us. I woke up the next morning feeling like I'd been hit by a truck, the weight of yesterday's blows still pressing down on me hard. The foreclosure email from the bank glowed on my phone screen from where I'd left it on the nightstand, that 30-day countdown ticking like a bomb. Lena was already up, moving quietly in the kitchen, but I could hear the worry in every clatter of a pan. I dragged myself out of bed, my body aching from the stress, and shuffled down the hall. The kids were still asleep, their doors closed, and I paused for a second, listening to their soft breathing, wondering how much longer we'd have this roof over us. When I stepped into the kitchen, Lena turned from the stove, her eyes red from lack of sleep, or maybe tears she hadn't let me see. "Morning, Marcus," she said softly, setting a cup of coffee in front of me. "You look like hell. Did you sleep at all?" I shook my head, sinking into the chair. "Not much. That email, it's real. 30 days to pay up or they take the farm." She sat across from me, her hand reaching for mine. "We'll fight it. But the bills came in yesterday too. Electric, water, the seed loan from last year. They're all past due now, piling up higher than ever." I glanced at the stack on the counter. Envelopes unopened, but I knew what was inside. Demands for payment we couldn't make without that. "Loan. How bad?" I asked, my voice low. She sighed, flipping through them. "Over $5,000 just this month, and with Hargrove cutting us off, no more feed on credit. The cows are already low on supply." As if on cue, I heard a grinding noise from outside, loud and mechanical, like something breaking. I jumped up, looking out the window toward the barn. "What the hell?" Lena followed me to the door. "The old tractor's been acting up. Jamal tried starting it yesterday after school." We hurried out across the yard, the dry grass crunching under our boots, the drought making everything feel brittle and hopeless. In the barn, the tractor sat there with smoke wisping from the engine. A belt snapped clean through. I knelt down, inspecting it, my hands getting greasy as I poked around. "Damn thing's done. Without the loan, I can't fix this. We'll have to till by hand or something. 20 acres, that's impossible." Lena crossed her arms, biting her lip. "Marcus, the kids are scared. Keisha asked me last night if we're moving. Jamal's pretending to be tough, but I see it in his eyes." The kids came out then, still in their pajamas, rubbing sleep from their faces. Jamal spotted the tractor and ran over. "Dad, I didn't break it, it just stopped." I pulled him into a side hug. "I know, son, it's old, that's all." Keisha tugged at my shirt. "Daddy, why's everything breaking? Is it because of the bank man?" Her innocent question stabbed at me, and I knelt to her level. "Yeah, baby, partly, but we'll fix it." Lena herded them back inside for breakfast, shooting me a look that said we needed to talk more. Alone in the barn for a minute, I leaned against the wall, staring at the tools and equipment gathering dust, feeling the isolation creep in deeper. No loan meant no repairs, no supplies, no way to keep this place running. And with Whitaker's rumors flying, who would help? I grabbed my phone and scrolled through contacts, dialing up a couple old farming buddies from the community co-op. First was Tom Reynolds, a white guy I'd known since high school, always fair in trades. "Hey Tom, it's Marcus. Listen, I'm in a bind. Need to borrow some feed or maybe a spare part for the tractor." There was a long pause. "Marcus, heard about your loan troubles. Whitaker mentioned it at the chamber meeting last night. Said your farm's on the rocks, might not make it. Can't risk lending, man. Sorry." He hung up quick like he didn't want to be associated. I tried another, Sarah Klein, who ran a small equipment rental nearby. "Sarah, any chance I can get that backup tiller on short credit? Just till I sort this out." She hesitated. "I wish I could, Marcus, but word's out. Bank flagged you as high risk. Neighbors are talking, saying you're done for. Don't want to get caught in it." Click. One by one, they all said no, echoing the same crap. Heard from Whitaker. Rumors about default? Can't help. By the fifth call, I threw the phone down on the hay bale, cursing under my breath. Stripped of credit, cast out from the networks I'd built over years. It felt like the whole town had turned its back. I headed back to the house, but on the way I saw our neighbor, Bill Harlan. No relation to Whitaker, but a grizzled old white farmer whose land butted up against ours. He was fixing his fence, and when he spotted me, he waved me over with a grin that didn't look friendly. "Johnson, heard you're in hot water. Bank shut you down, eh?" Whitaker told a few of us at the bar, said you came in begging, looking all desperate and dirty from the fields. His words stung, that contempt dripping like venom, echoing Whitaker's bias. I stopped at the fence line. "It's not like that, Bill. Just a bad season." He laughed, loud and mocking. "Bad season or bad management? Folks say you're over your head. Might be time to sell out." "Hell, I might buy a chunk myself. Clean it up." He spat on the ground near my boots. "No offense, but some people just ain't cut out for this life." I clenched my fists, feeling the humiliation burn hot in my chest. We've been neighbors 20 years. You know I work hard. He shrugged, turning back to his work. Times change. Whitaker's got the town's ear, says you're a risk. Better pack up before they force you. I walked away, his taunts following me like shadows. Dirty farmer begging for scraps, echoing in my ears. Back inside, Lena was at the table with the kids, who were eating cereal quietly. Who is that, Dad? Jamal asked, looking out the window. Just Bill being an ass, I muttered, then caught myself. Sorry, son, neighbor stuff. Keisha pushed her bowl away. I don't like him. He always stares funny at us. Lena shot me a worried glance. Marcus, the phone's been ringing off the hook, more suppliers canceling, and Mrs. Ellis from down the road called. Said she heard we're trouble now. Won't let her kids play with ours anymore. I sat down heavy, the chair scraping loud. It's Whitaker. He's poisoned everyone. We're isolated, Lena. No help, no credit, nothing. She reached over. We'll get through, but maybe we think about selling a parcel, just to buy time. Her words hit like a gut punch, but I nodded slowly, the idea twisting inside me. That afternoon, as the kids did homework, I wandered back to the barn alone, the sun beating down on the roof like judgment. I sat on an old crate, staring at the faded photos tacked to the wall, my grandparents. Proud black folks who'd bought this land after years of sharecropping hell, fighting through segregation and worse. Their faces looked back at me, accusing almost like, don't you dare lose this. But with equipment broken, bills towering, community turning away, and taunts ringing in my head, I felt stripped bare. No rights left, no dignity, just a black farmer humiliated in his own town, reduced to contemplating selling the legacy they'd bled for. Tears came then, hot and silent, as I whispered to the empty air. How did it come to this? The emotional weight crushed me, isolation wrapping tight, making me question if I was worth fighting for anymore. Whitaker had won this round, pushing me to the bottom, and all I could do was sit there, shattered, wondering if there was any way up. I sat there in the barn for what felt like hours, the tears drying on my cheeks as the afternoon sun slanted through the cracks in the walls, casting long shadows across the dusty floor. My grandparents' photo stared back at me from the wall, their eyes full of that quiet strength they'd carried through harder times than this, and something inside me shifted. I wiped my face with the back of my hand, rough and calloused from years of work, and took a deep breath, the air thick with the smell of hay and oil from the broken tractor. No more crying, I told myself. Whitaker and his kind had pushed me down far enough, but I wasn't staying here at rock bottom. Racism like his had tried to break my family before, and they'd risen up. Now it was my turn. I stood up slowly, brushing off my jeans, feeling a spark ignite in my chest, turning the despair into something sharper, like resolve. I couldn't let him win, not after humiliating me in front of the town, spreading lies that isolated us, threatening to steal the land my ancestors fought for. Vowing right there in the silence, I decided to expose him, to tear down that smug facade and show everyone what he really was. But I knew I had to be smart about it. No charging back into the bank yelling accusations. That'd just get me arrested or worse. I'd play weak publicly, act like I was beaten down, shuffling around town with my head low, letting Whitaker think he'd crushed me. Meanwhile, I'd investigate quietly, dig into the bank's practices, find proof of his discrimination that no one could ignore. Evidence was key. That overheard conversation was a start, but I needed more. Records, patterns, something concrete. As I walked back to the house, the plan forming in my mind, I felt a bit of weight lift off my shoulders, like I had direction again. Lena was in the kitchen when I stepped inside, chopping vegetables for dinner, her knife moving steady, but her face still lined with worry. She looked up as the screen door banged shut. Marcus, you okay? You've been out there a while. I nodded, pulling her into a quick hug, feeling her tense shoulders relax a little against me. Yeah, I'm okay now. Sat there thinking, and I'm done feeling sorry for myself. Whitaker's not taking this farm without a fight. She pulled back, searching my eyes. What do you mean? We talking lawyer or something? I shook my head, keeping my voice low in case the kids were nearby. Not yet. Too risky without proof. I'm going to act like everything's fine. Well, like I'm giving up. Go around town looking defeated. Maybe even talk about selling a piece of land. But behind the scenes, I'll start looking into the bank, see if he's done this to others. Lena set the knife down, wiping her hands on a towel. That sounds dangerous, Marcus. Men like him don't like being poked at. I squeezed her hand. I know, but we got no choice. The foreclosures breathing down our necks, suppliers gone, neighbors turning away. If I don't strike back smart, we lose everything. She nodded slowly, a small smile breaking through. All right, but you promise me you'll be careful. No going lone wolf, I kissed her forehead. Promise. First step, I need to talk to someone who knows banking inside out. That's when I remembered Elias Thompson, an old friend from my dad's days, a retired accountant who'd worked at a firm in the city before coming back to town. He was black like me, in his early 70s now, sharp as ever, and we'd bumped into each other at community events over the years. Elias had always been supportive, sharing stories about navigating prejudice in his career, and I figured he might have insights on how banks like Whitaker's operated. I grabbed my phone from the counter and scrolled to his number, one I hadn't called in a while but kept just in case. "I'm calling Elias," I told Lena. "He might have some advice." She raised an eyebrow. "The accountant? Yeah, he's solid. Go for it." I dialed, pacing the kitchen as it rang, the kids' laughter filtering in from the living room where they were playing a board game. Elias picked up on the third ring, his voice warm and gravelly. "Marcus Johnson, been a minute, son. How's the farm holding up?" I leaned against the counter, glancing out the window at the dry fields. "Not great, Elias. That's why I'm calling. You heard about my loan denial at the bank?" He chuckled dryly. "Word travels fast in this town. Whitaker's handiwork, I bet. Sorry to hear it." I took a breath, diving in. "Yeah, and it's worse. He's spreading rumors, blackballing me everywhere. Overheard him saying I don't fit the profile. You know what that means." There was a pause on the line. Then Elias's tone turned serious. "Discrimination, plain as day. I've seen it before in my line of work. Banks like that have patterns, Marcus. They hide behind paperwork, but there's always a trail." My heart picked up. "That's what I'm thinking. I want to expose him, but quietly. You got any clues on where to start? Like, how to check their practices?" He hummed thoughtfully. "Well, since you asked, I might have something. Back when I was auditing, I noticed some banks in this area keep hidden accounts, old trusts, forgotten inheritances tied to family names. Not illegal, but they don't advertise them, especially if it doesn't fit their profile. Your family banks with them forever. Maybe poke at public records for discrepancies." I stopped pacing, gripping the phone tighter. "Hidden accounts like what?" Elias lowered his voice a bit. "Could be anything, dormant funds, old investments. Start with the county clerk's office. Look for liens or trusts under your grandparents' names. And Marcus, check the bank's annual reports online. Sometimes they list denial rates by demographics. That could show a pattern." Excitement bubbled up inside me, the first real clue feeling like a lifeline. "Elias, that's gold. Thank you. I owe you one." He laughed softly. "Just pay it forward, son. And watch your back. Whitaker's been around too long to go down easy. Call if you need more." We hung up and I turned to Lena, who was listening in. "What'd he say?" she asked, eyes wide. "Hidden accounts tied to the bank, maybe from our family. And to look at public records for patterns in denials. It's a start." She nodded, pulling plates from the cabinet. "Sounds promising. But remember, play weak out there." As the evening wore on, we ate dinner with the kids, me forcing laughs at Jamal's jokes about school, hugging Keisha when she showed me a drawing of our farm. But my mind was on the plan. Tomorrow, I'd head to the county clerk's office quietly, act like I was checking on the foreclosure, but really dig for those records. Publicly, I'd let folks see me looking defeated. Maybe even drop a word about selling land to Bill or someone, keep Whitaker overconfident. Inside, though, I was awake now, ready to strike back. No more victim. It was time to turn the tables, one quiet step at a time. Lying in bed that night with Lena, her head on my shoulder, I whispered, "This is it. We're fighting smart." She squeezed my hand. "I believe in you, Marcus." For the first time in days, sleep came easier, the decision fueling me forward. I woke up early the next morning, that resolve from the barn still fresh in my mind, pushing me to start digging without wasting time. Lena was in the kitchen making breakfast, and I told her my plan over coffee, keeping it quiet so the kids wouldn't hear. "First, the county courthouse for those records Elias mentioned," I said, sipping from my mug. "I'll act like I'm just checking the foreclosure notice, head down, defeated." She nodded, her eyes steady on mine. "Smart. Get what you need, but don't push too hard." I hugged her quick, then headed out to the truck, slouching my shoulders as I drove into town, making sure anyone spotting me saw a man on the ropes. The drought had left the roads dusty, and I felt the financial pressure weighing heavier with that 30-day notice of default we'd gotten via the bank portal just yesterday, intent to accelerate if we didn't pay up. But inside, I was focused, playing weak publicly while building my case quietly, step by step. At the county courthouse, an old stone building with creaky wooden floors, I walked in slow, hat in hand, approaching the clerk's window like I was beaten down. The place smelled like musty paper and stale air, a few locals milling about filing documents. Behind the counter was a white woman in her 50s, name tag reading Ms. Hargrove, typing away on her computer. "Morning, ma'am," I said softly, my voice low and tired. I'm Marcus Johnson. Got a notice of default on my farm yesterday. Need to check the property records, deeds, liens, any estate stuff from my family. She looked up, adjusting her glasses. Her expression neutral, but I caught a flicker of recognition, probably from town gossip. Johnson, Elm Road, 120 acres? Let me pull it up. She clicked through her system, the keyboard clacking loud in the quiet room. Here's the deed history. Your grandparents transferred it clean in the 80s. Liens, just the mortgage with Whitaker's bank. Wait, probate dockets show something else? An old trust instrument filed back in the 70s. Johnson Family Trust, grantor your great-uncle Elias Johnson Sr. On beneficiary line to heirs, custodian listed as the bank. No recent activity noted, but it's still on record. My pulse quickened, but I kept my face blank, acting surprised and worn out. A trust. Family never talked about that. Can I get copies of the filing? She printed them out, stapling the pages. Here you go. You'd need to verify beneficiary status with the trustee, the bank, for any details. Good luck with the default notice. I thanked her quietly, folding the papers into my pocket, feeling that first piece click into place. This was the hidden account Elias had clued me in on. A trust from my great-uncle's oil dealings long ago, but no amounts listed yet, just the basics. As I left, I overheard two clerks chatting nearby. The Johnson's in deep, Whitaker's got the whole chamber buzzing about risky profiles like his. It stung, but I shuffled out, head low, letting them think I was done for. Back in the truck, I pulled out my phone and called Elias right away, the engine idling as I sat in the parking lot. Elias, it's Marcus, I said when he picked up. Found the trust filing at the courthouse, Johnson Family Trust. Bank is trustee. No details on value, though. He chuckled low, his voice crackling over the line. Good start, son. To prove you're a beneficiary, you'll need ID, birth records, maybe a family tree affidavit. Then request a beneficiary accounting summary from the bank's trust department. They'll have to provide it if you verify. Law requires it for heirs. But go in looking weak, like you're grasping at straws. I nodded to myself, jotting notes on the back of an envelope. Will do. Appreciate the guidance. We hung up and I drove straight to the bank, steeling myself to keep up the act. Parking in the lot, I took a deep breath, messing up my hair a bit, slumping my posture as I walked in. The lobby was busy with mid-morning customers, and I avoided Whitaker's office, heading to the side desk marked Trust Services. A young white woman, maybe 30, sat there, name tag saying Ms. Ellis. Help you, sir? She asked politely. I leaned on the counter, voice shaky on purpose. Yeah, Marcus Johnson. Just found out about an old family trust here, Johnson Family Trust from the 70s. Got the courthouse filing. I'm an heir, I think. Can I get a beneficiary statement or something? Farm's in default, grasping here. She typed into her computer, asking for my ID and the papers. I handed them over, watching her scan them. Let me verify. Yes, matches the records. You're listed as a potential beneficiary through the airline. I can provide a summary accounting. It's substantial, held in investments. Current value. Around $50 million is give or take market fluctuations. My heart nearly stopped, but I widened my eyes like it was news, muttering, 50 million? That can't be right. Family never knew. She printed a redacted summary, handing it over. It's been dormant. No claims. You'd need a lawyer to fully access, but this confirms the balance. I took it with trembling hands for show and thanked her quietly, shuffling out like a man stunned but still broken. Inside, though, the scale tipped. The bank had been sitting on my family's fortune, never notifying us, probably because we didn't fit the profile. From there, I headed to the public library, a quiet spot downtown with free computers, to dig into those lending patterns Elias mentioned. I signed in at a terminal in the back, hood up, acting like I was just browsing job listings to sell the defeated vibe. Pulling up the HMDA Public Data Home Mortgage Disclosure Act stuff, easy to access online. I searched for the bank's lending records in our county over the last 5 years. The numbers popped up in simple tables, loan approvals by race, income, all that. Stark discrepancies jumped out. Black applicants denied at rates 3 times higher than white ones with similar credit, especially in rural areas like ours. Local news archives linked to it too, an old article about complaints filed with the CFPB, mentioning patterns of unequal treatment at small-town banks like Whitaker's. I printed the key pages discreetly, folding them into my growing folder, my mind racing with how this tied to my denial. It wasn't just me, it was a system, coded to keep folks like us out. As I left the library, I overheard a couple of old-timers at the coffee shop next door, one saying, Whitaker was bragging at the Rotary lunch yesterday, said he's got the town locked down, controlling who gets what. We decide who fits, he told his buddies. I kept walking, head down, but noted it, his overconfidence shining through, thinking he was untouchable. Back home that afternoon, Lena met me at the door, the kids at school, and I spread the papers on the kitchen table. "Look at this," I said, showing her the trust summary and HMDA printouts. 50 million, Lena, great-uncle's oil money, buried by the bank. And these stats show their denial pattern scream discrimination. She gasped, tracing the numbers. "Marcus, that's huge." As we talked, my phone dinged with an anonymous email. No sender, just a subject. Inside help. Attached were 2 scanned documents, a memo from Whitaker to loan staff, signed off by him. Reading, review apps for client profile mismatch. Presentation concerns and reputational risk if not aligned with our customer base. Coded talk, but clear as day. And one email chain with a slip. Johnson's type won't cut it. Too much field dirt for branch standards. Just one heavy line, but enough to nail the bias. Probably from that pitying teller or someone inside fed up. "This is solid," I told Lena, filing it all away in a locked drawer. "Patterns, the trust, internal docs, foundations there?" She hugged me tight. "But risk's still high, Whitaker's boasting like he's won." I nodded, feeling the balance shift inside me, the power starting to even out. But I had to proceed careful, step by step, no rushing the counterblow yet. With that folder of evidence tucked away safe in the locked drawer at home, I felt ready to test the waters, make a small move that would shake Whitaker without showing my whole hand. The next morning, I woke up before dawn, the house still quiet, Lena breathing softly beside me, and I slipped out to the barn where the broken tractor sat like a reminder of what he'd done. I reviewed the papers one more time, the HMDA data showing those unequal denial rates, the memo with Whitaker's coded profile mismatch language, and that one slip about too much field dirt, plus the trust summary confirming the 50 million my family never knew about. It was enough to start something subtle, nothing big yet, just a leak to plant doubt. I decided on the local reporter, Sarah Jennings, a sharp woman in her 30s who'd written pieces on small-town issues before, someone not in Whitaker's pocket. I'd play it weak, act like I was desperate and spilling by accident, let her run with a hint of the discrimination, without naming the trust or internals. Lena stirred when I came back inside for coffee, rubbing her eyes as she joined me in the kitchen. "What's the plan today, Marcus?" she asked, pouring herself a cup. I leaned against the counter, keeping my voice low. "Gonna reach out to that reporter, Sarah. Leak a bit about the denial patterns, nothing full, just enough to get questions stirring in town." She nodded slowly, stirring her coffee. "Smart, but keep it anonymous if you can." I shook my head. "Nah, I'll meet her, look defeated, like I'm venting. That way it seems real, not calculated." The kids were still asleep, so I kissed Lena goodbye and drove into town, slouching in the truck seat, making sure my face looked worn out if anyone glanced my way. At the diner where Sarah often worked, I parked and walked in slow, ordering a black coffee at the counter before spotting her in a booth with her laptop. "Ms. Jennings," I said, approaching hesitant, hat in hand. "I'm Marcus Johnson. Mind if I sit? Got something you might want to hear." She looked up, curious, waving me down. "Johnson, the farmer with the loan trouble? Sit. What's on your mind?" I slid into the booth, setting my coffee down with shaky hands for show, glancing around like I was paranoid. "It's bad, ma'am. Whitaker at the bank denied my loan, said credit issues, but I overheard him talking about profiles not fitting, and I dug up some public data. Those HMDA reports show black folks like me getting denied way more than others." I pulled out a single printed page from the denial stats, sliding it over, casual, like it was all I had. Not just me, patterns over years. Town's talking, but no one's saying it loud. Sarah's eyes lit up as she scanned it, jotting notes quick. "This is serious, Mr. Johnson. Discrimination claims, you got more?" I shook my head, acting defeated. "Nah, just this. Farm's in default now, 30 days ticking. Thought maybe you could look into it, ask around. Don't use my name up front, I'm already blackballed." She nodded, tucking the page away. "I'll dig quiet. If it checks out, could be a story. Thanks for the tip." I stood up slow, muttering, "Appreciate it, just want fairness." Walking out, I felt that first strike land subtle. She'd run with it. Shake things without me in the spotlight yet. By afternoon, I drove to the town hall for a chamber meeting I'd heard about, playing weak by showing up like I was begging for scraps. Head low as I entered the room full of business owners and bankers, including Whitaker schmoozing in the front. I sat in the back, slouched, avoiding eyes but listening close as they discussed local economics. Sarah must have moved fast because midway through, a council member stood up during Q&A. Heard whispers about lending disparities at the bank, public data showing uneven denials by race. "Harlan, care to comment?" Whitaker froze at the podium, his smug smile faltering for a second, but he recovered quick. "Nonsense. Our approvals are based on credit, pure and simple." Data can be twisted. But the room murmured, a few heads turning, and I caught his glance darting around. Sweat beading on his forehead. It was small, but it hit. His confidence shook, that overconfident mask cracking just a bit. After the meeting, I shuffled out slow, overhearing Whitaker pull his assistant aside in the hallway. "Who the hell leaked that? Check the staff, someone's talking." The assistant nodded nervous. "On it, sir, but the superiors called already, wanting reports." I kept walking, face blank, but inside satisfaction burned. Planting that distrust among his inner circle, his boss is now watching. Perfect test without revealing my full evidence. Back home, Lena was waiting on the porch, the kids inside doing homework. Jamal helping Keisha with math. "How'd it go?" she asked as I pulled her into a hug. "Leaked the stats to Sarah. She bit, and at the meeting, questions came up." Whitaker looked rattled. His superiors are monitoring now. Lena smiled faint. "Good strike. But he suspects a leak?" I nodded, leading her inside. "Yeah, but not me. Thinks it's internal. Keeps him off balance." We sat at the table, me showing her a quick text from an anonymous tipster. "Boss is paranoid, barking at everyone." It confirmed the plant worked, distrust sprouting in his team. The kids came in then, Jamal asking, "Dad, you okay? You look tired?" I forced a weak smile for practice. "Yeah, son, just a long day." Keisha climbed onto my lap. "Fix the tractor yet?" I hugged her. "Soon, baby, things are turning." Lena shot me a knowing look as she started dinner. "Careful, Marcus, this is just the start." The high from that first counterblow didn't last long, fading quick as I drove home from the chamber meeting. Whitaker's rattled face still fresh in my mind. Lena was in the yard hanging laundry when I pulled up, the dry wind whipping the sheets around her, and she waved me over with a concerned look. "Marcus, you back early." "Everything go okay with the leak?" she asked, pinning a shirt to the line. I nodded, getting out of the truck and helping her with the basket. "Yeah, Sarah got the tip, and at the meeting, someone called him out on the denial patterns." He sweated a bit, and I overheard him snapping at his assistant about leaks. "Superiors are on him now." Lena's eyes lit up for a second, but then she frowned. "That's good, but he'll hit back hard. Men like him don't like being questioned." I pulled her close for a quick kiss. "I know, but it's working. He's off balance." The kids came running out from the house then, Jamal kicking a soccer ball, Keisha trailing with her doll. "Dad, play with us!" Jamal yelled, dribbling toward me. I forced a laugh, joining in for a few minutes. But my mind was already turning to what Whitaker might do next. That evening, as we sat down for dinner, fried chicken and greens Lena had made, the phone rang sharp, breaking the chatter. I picked it up, and a gruff voice on the other end said, "Mr. Johnson, this is Inspector Reeves from the County Code Enforcement. Got a complaint about your farm, possible violations on structures and land use. Need to schedule an inspection tomorrow." My stomach tightened, but I kept my tone calm. "Violations? What kind? We've been up to code for years." Reeves cleared his throat. "Anonymous tip said unsafe barn, improper fencing, even water runoff issues from the drought. Could lead to shutdown if confirmed. Be there at 9 a.m. I hung up, staring at the phone, and Lena looked over worried. "Who is that?" she asked, serving the kids their plates. "Code inspector. Complaint filed, anonymous, but I bet it's Whitaker. Escalating now, trying to shut us down." Jamal paused with his fork mid-air. "Shut down the farm? But why?" Keisha's lip quivered. "Sir, Daddy, no." I reached over, squeezing their hands. "It's okay, guys. Just some paperwork hassle. Eat up." But inside, anger simmered. Whitaker was furious from the meeting, hitting back by weaponizing the system against me. The next morning, I woke to banging on the door at exactly 9. The inspector already there with a clipboard and a stern white guy in uniform beside him, probably from the health department. Lena peered out the window, whispering, "Marcus, they're here." "Look serious?" I opened the door, forcing a polite nod. "Inspector Reeves? Come in, but what's this about?" He stepped onto the porch, handing me a notice. "Complaint details, barn structural hazards, potential code violations on equipment storage, and environmental concerns with your fields. We're inspecting now." As they walked the property, poking at the broken tractor and the fence lines, I trailed behind, heart pounding. "This is bogus," I muttered to Lena, who followed at a distance. "Whitaker's filing false complaints to threaten shutdown," Reeves called out from the barn. "Mr. Johnson, this beam here's cracked, safety issue, and that runoff ditch? Not compliant. Could fine you heavy or order closure," the other guy nodded. "Yeah, and health risks with the livestock area. We'll report back, but expect orders soon." They left after an hour, leaving me with a preliminary violation sheet listing half a dozen fabricated problems, all threatening to halt operations within days. By afternoon, things got worse. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Back off the rumors or the farm's done. Accidents happen out there. Veiled threat, no doubt from one of Whitaker's intermediaries, maybe a chamber buddy or hired hand. I showed Lena in the kitchen, her face paling. Marcus, this is scary, he's not playing. I paced the floor, frustration building. He's escalating, furious from the leak, trying to bury us deeper. Then the mail came. Another envelope from the bank. An updated default notice accelerating the foreclosure to 15 days. Now, citing additional risks from code issues, I slammed it on the table. See? He's pulling strings everywhere. Lena sat down heavy. What do we do? Call Elias? I nodded, dialing him quick. Elias, it's Marcus. Inspector hit the farm. False complaints, threats coming in. Whitaker's striking back hard. He sighed over the line. Expected that. He's destroying trails too, heard from an old contact. Bank's IT wiping digital records. Emails vanishing. Stay low, don't react yet. I hung up, feeling cornered again, like the walls were closing in. The kids came home from school then, Jamal dropping his backpack with a thud. Need Dad, the bus driver said our farm's in trouble. Kids at school talking. Keisha hugged my leg. Is it true? Are we losing home? I knelt down, forcing calm. No, baby, just grown-up stuff. Go play outside. But as they ran off, Lena whispered, he's spreading more rumors, isolating us further. I stepped out to the barn alone, staring at the violation notice. The anonymous threat replaying in my head. Whitaker was destroying evidence. Those emails I'd gotten anonymously might be the last copies. His team scrubbing servers to cover tracks. And the veiled threats through go-betweens, implying harm to the farm or us. It made my blood run cold. Authorities knocking, fines looming, shutdown threats. It seemed like I was about to lose again. Pushed back to the edge, I called Sarah quick, voice low. Hey, it's Marcus. Things heating up, code complaints filed, probably from Whitaker. Can you look into it? She paused. I'll poke around, but be careful. He's influential, might come after sources. Hanging up, I felt the pressure mount, Whitaker's fury turning the tide, making it look like he had me cornered with no way out. That night, as Lena and I lay in bed, the house quiet except for the wind rattling the windows, she turned to me. Marcus, this feels bad. Threats, inspections. What if they shut us down before you can use the evidence? I stared at the ceiling. The $50 million trust and HMDA stats safe in my folder, but unplayed yet. He's trying to destroy the digital trails, make sure nothing sticks. But I got hard copies. Still, it seems like we're backed into a corner again. She squeezed my hand. You got this far. Don't let him win. Sleep didn't come easy, the knocks from the inspector echoing in my mind. Whitaker's strikes landing hard, escalating the sabotage just when I thought the balance was shifting. It appeared I was done for, authorities at the door, threats hanging over us. But deep down, that spark held, waiting for the right moment to reveal it all. I woke up that morning with a fire in my gut that wouldn't quit. The kind that comes from knowing you've got the upper hand even if the world thinks you're beaten. The sun was just creeping over the horizon, turning the dry fields outside our window a pale gold. And Lena was still asleep beside me, her breathing steady while my mind raced through the evidence folder I'd locked in the desk drawer. Last night, those HMDA reports showing the bank's denial patterns hitting black farmers like me 3 times. Harder. The memos from my anonymous tipster with Whitaker's sign-offs on client profile mismatch and presentation concerns. Plus that one damning email where he slipped and wrote, Johnson's type brings too much field dirt. Into the branch, it was all there, solid and hard to deny. Add the trust documents proving the bank as trustee and me as beneficiary to that $50 million inheritance from my great uncle, and I had a bomb ready to drop. But after yesterday's inspections and threats, I knew it had to be public or it'd get buried. No more quiet jabs. Time to set up the big reveal at town hall with media, bank officials, and witnesses to make sure Whitaker couldn't squirm out. I slipped out of bed quietly, heading to the kitchen to brew coffee. My hands steady as I poured a cup, thinking this was it. Play weak one more day, then watch him fall. Lena shuffled in a few minutes later, rubbing her eyes, her robe tied loose around her. Marcus, you're up early. Still thinking about those code violations? She asked, her voice soft but edged with worry. I nodded, pulling her into a quick hug, feeling her warmth against the chill of the morning. Yeah, but I'm done hiding. Calling Elias now, need his take on going public. She squeezed my arm. Be smart about it. I grabbed my phone from the counter and dialed Elias, pacing the linoleum floor as it rang. The broken tractor visible through the window like a taunt from Whitaker. Elias picked up quick, his gravelly voice coming through. Marcus, what's the play? I leaned against the wall, keeping my tone low. Evidence is locked, patterns from HMDA, those memos with his bias coded in. The trust doc's naming me beneficiary, setting up a town hall tomorrow for the reveal. Media, witnesses, bank brass? You think it'll hold? He hummed thoughtfully. It will if you do it right. Get Sarah on media, pull in witnesses from the co-op or church folks he's denied too. And for the trust, have that lawyer I hooked you with send a preservation notice today. Lock down their records so they can't delete more. I nodded to myself, jotting notes on a napkin. On it. Thanks, Elias. We hung up and I turned to Lena, who was slicing bread for toast. He's in, says pull witnesses from the community. She slid the plate over. Call Sarah next. Get the press locked. I dialed Sarah right after, stepping out onto the porch where the drought-cracked earth stretched out to the barn, the 120 acres feeling more like mine than ever with that trust in play. She answered on the second ring, her voice alert. Marcus, got your text last night. What's brewing? I kept my words measured, like I was still desperate. Big one, Sarah. Town hall tomorrow noon, community lending forum. I've got proof of discrimination patterns, internal memos showing bias, witness stories. Need you there with a camera, maybe tip off a bigger outlet. She paused, typing sounds in the background. This could be huge. I'll be there, and I'll loop in a regional news affiliate. Send me teasers if you can. I agreed, hanging up with a rush of adrenaline. Knowing her coverage would make it impossible for Whitaker to spin. Back inside, Lena handed me my keys. Go book the hall. Kids are waking soon. I'll handle breakfast. I kissed her cheek, feeling the shift inside me, from hunted to hunter, even as I planned to shuffle into town looking defeated. Around noon, I drove to the town hall, a squat brick building in the center of downtown, parking my truck and walking in with my shoulders slumped. Hat pulled low like the inspections had broken me. The clerk at the front desk, a white woman in her 60s named Betty, looked up from her computer. Mr. Johnson, what brings you here? She asked, her tone pitying. Probably from hearing the rumors Whitaker spread. I cleared my throat, acting hesitant. Need to book the main room for tomorrow noon, a community lending forum. Just folks talking about bank issues. Nothing big. She clicked through her schedule, nodding. It's open, $50 deposit. Who's attending? I paid cash, keeping it casual. Community members, maybe some bank reps. I'll handle invites. She printed the confirmation, handing it over. Good luck. Heard about your farm troubles. The cure window shortened like that? Tough. I muttered thanks and left, her words stinging but fueling me. In the truck, I pulled up the bank's website on my phone, finding the public contacts for the regional compliance officer and risk management board liaison. Emails and a mailing address right there. I drafted quick formal letters on my laptop, printing them at the library down the street. Invitation to discuss lending practices at town. Hall forum, noon tomorrow. Concerns include denial disparities and internal policies. I mailed them certified at the post office, then emailed copies from a public computer, adding a petition-like note signed Concerned Depositors to draw them in without tipping my hand. A couple large local depositors from the co-op got personal calls too, me sounding weak. Hey, Mr. Hayes, it's Marcus. Forum tomorrow on bank stuff. Your input could help. He agreed, saying, Whitaker's been shady with my loans too. I'll show. That afternoon, I headed to the Farmers Co-op meeting spot, a rundown hall on the edge of town where black farmers like me gathered for support, introduced through Elias who'd tipped me off. I walked in slow, still playing defeated, spotting 4 guys I knew from church and co-op events. Tom Reynolds, who'd been denied a crop loan last year, and 3 others. Mike Davis, denied equipment financing. Larry Thompson, turned down for land expansion. And old Mr. Green, rejected on a refinance. Fellas, I said, joining them at the table where they sipped coffee, my voice low like I was sharing woes. Whitaker hit me hard, denials, codes, threats. But I got proof. HMDA showing patterns, memos with his profile mismatch crap. You in for a town hall tomorrow? Share your stories? Make statements? Tom leaned forward, his face hard. Damn right. He told me straight up my presentation was off, meant my overalls from the fields. I got emails too, coded like yours. Mike nodded. Mine was reputational risk, same bias. I recorded a call where he slipped, said, folks like you drag down the branch. I'll bring it. Larry and Mr. Green chimed in, sharing similar denials, and we spent an hour drafting statements, 2 pages each, detailing dates, reasons given, and how it matched the patterns. This is solid, I said, collecting them into my folder, feeling the weight grow. Witnesses like you make it undeniable. They clapped my back as I left, promising to show tomorrow, the community finally rallying quiet but strong. Late afternoon, I drove to the bank, heart pounding but face set in that weak mask. Folder under my arm with the beneficiary claim packet Elias's lawyer had prepped ID, birth records, affidavit tracing my airline to my great-uncle. I avoided Whitaker's office, heading straight to the trust department desk where Ms. Ellis sat, the same woman from before. "Mr. Johnson," she said, recognizing me. "Back so soon?" I nodded, humble, sliding the packet over. "Submitting the full claim, verified beneficiary for the Johnson Family Trust. Need preliminary confirmation and disbursement scheduled." She reviewed it quick, typing into her system. "Looks good. Preliminary verification approved. Balance confirmed at $50 million. We can authorize disbursement effective next business day, pending final sign-off tomorrow." She printed the confirmation, stamping it official, and I tucked it away, relief flooding me. On the way out, I texted Elias's lawyer. "Send the preservation notice now. Lock their records." He replied instant, "Done." Litigation hold emailed to compliance in Whitaker's office, "No tampering allowed." I got in the truck, the cure windows intent to accelerate, feeling like nothing now. With control finally mine, the trust ready to pull tomorrow after the reveal. That evening, as Lena and I finished dinner with the kids, Jamal chattering about school, Keisha drawing a picture of our farm saved, my phone rang, unknown number. I answered in the living room, Lena watching from the table. "Johnson," Whitaker's voice snarled through, low and furious. "They cancel that form tomorrow, or I'll make sure those code violations shut you down permanent. And accidents on farms, they happen." His panic dripped through the threat, exposing how rattled he was. Thinking he could still bully me, I kept my voice shaky for show. "Mr. Whitaker, it's just a talk." "No harm," he laughed cold. "You think you're clever? I know it's you stirring crap. Back off, or your family pays." He hung up and I stared at the phone, anger boiling but determination hardening. Lena rushed over. "Was that him?" I nodded, pulling her close. "Yeah, final blow. Threats direct now, but it just shows he's scared. Tomorrow, at the town hall with Sarah's media, the compliance folks, witnesses, it's set." She held me tight. "Be safe." As I tucked the kids in, Keisha whispering, "Daddy, make the bad man go away." I kissed her forehead, the suspense coiling tight inside me. Tomorrow, he'd face the evidence in front of everyone, his world crumbling while I reclaimed mine. I walked into the town hall that morning with the folder pressed against my chest, my heart pounding like a drum in my ears. Every step echoing the years of humiliation and desperation Whitaker had piled on me. The place was packed tight, community folks crammed into rows of folding chairs, whispering about the flyers I'd put up yesterday. Sarah Jennings front and center with her notebook, her camera guy rolling alongside a regional news crew capturing the tension in the air. Mr. Parker, the regional compliance officer, sat up straight in the front, his notepad ready, while Ms. Caldwell, the risk board liaison, scrolled her tablet with a focused frown. My witnesses were there too. Calvin Brooks, Mike Davis, Larry Thompson, and Mr. Green scattered in the crowd, their faces set hard from the same injustices I'd faced. Whitaker stood off to the side, leaning against the wall in his sharp suit, that arrogant smirk on his lips like he owned the room, confident he'd twist this forum into another win, dismissing me as the grubby farmer who'd never measure up. I approached the podium slow, my work boots thudding heavy, shoulders slumped in my dirt-streaked shirt, playing the broken man one more time to let him underestimate me. But inside, fire raged, knowing Lena was home with Jamal and Keisha watching the stream. This moment payback for the public shaming in his lobby, the isolation he'd forced on us, the financial desperation that nearly stole our home. I tapped the mic, the sharp feedback slicing the murmurs, drawing all eyes to me. "Everyone, thank you for coming," I said, my voice starting low and rough, like the words carried the weight of my broken tractor back home. "This isn't just my story, it's about what's been rotting in our town. I've given 20 years to that bank, breaking my back on 120 acres my grandparents fought for, but Whitaker denied my loan, and it wasn't right. Let's look at the proof." I held up the HMDA reports first, the pages crisp under the lights, cameras zooming in close. Public lending data shows denials for black applicants like me running 3 times higher than white folks with matching credit. Year after year, the pattern's undeniable, crushing lives and legacies. The room stirred quick, gasps from the back, a man muttering, "That's my cousin's story too." Sarah leaned in, her pen flying, while the news crew panned across faces. Whitaker pushed forward, his tone mocking. "Johnson, that's skewed data at best," he said, crossing his arms tight. "We base everything on risk. Your farm's a sinking ship, plain and simple." Mr. Parker glanced his way sharp, jotting notes, but I pressed on, no pause. I laid the internal memos on the table, sliding copies to Ms. Caldwell and Mr. Parker, the papers rustling like whispers of betrayal. "Then explain these from your own system, Whitaker. Emails and memos you approved, client profile mismatch, presentation concerns, reputational risk if not aligned with our base. code for keeping out folks like me. And this one, Johnson's type brings too much field dirt into the branch. Your words, clear as day. The gasps turned sharper, the crowd leaning forward, one woman whispering loud. He said what? Sarah's camera caught it all, the regional crew firing questions already. Mr. Whitaker, comment on the language. His face flushed red, eyes bulging as he stepped closer. Out of context, fakes, all of it, we don't have those records. They were deleted, they don't exist. The slip hit like lightning, the room erupting in boos and murmurs. Reporters shouting over each other. Deleted how? Mr. Parker raised his hand firm. We received the litigation hold yesterday. Any deletion is a compliance breach. We'll investigate that immediately. Ms. Caldwell nodded, her voice cutting. These documents match our formats. This demands review. The air crackled electric now, folks shifting angry in their seats, and I signaled my witnesses up, the tension coiling tighter. Calvin Brooks took the mic first, his voice steady despite the shake in his hands. Whitaker denied my loan last year, presentation concern, he said, because I came straight from the fields, lost my whole season. Mike Davis followed, hitting play on his phone. Whitaker's recorded voice booming. Folks like you drag down the branch, too risky. Boos swelled louder, a man in the crowd yelling, How many more lies? Larry Thompson stepped up. He rejected my expansion, reputational risk, but it was my skin, my dirt from work. Green rapped it, cane thumping. 50 years farming, denied refinance for profile mismatch. It's prejudice pure. The testimonies fueled the outrage, the audience murmuring fierce, reporters peppering Whitaker with questions as he paced frantic. This is a setup. Bitter losers ganging up, he shouted, but Ms. Caldwell stood tall. These align with the data and memos. We're starting an HR and legal investigation today. I felt the tide turn full then, my voice rising strong as I spread the trust docs across the table. And this seals it. The bank's trustee for my family's $50 million trust from my great-uncle's oil deals in the 70s. No notification to heirs for decades, even as it sat there. File notes show the same presentation concerns, a blatant failure of duty. The room exploded, gasps turning to shouts, folks standing now, one reporter calling, Hidden funds? For how long? Whitaker grabbed at the edges, desperate. Private matter. Johnson, mercy, think of my family, please. His beg cracked pitiful, but I stared him down cold. Mercy? You humiliated me public, isolated my family with lies, betrayed my trust, drove us to desperation with threats and codes. You saw my color, my honest dirt, and decided I was less. No mercy for that. The crowd cheered wild, boos raining on Whitaker, security moving in as he pleaded with Caldwell. She turned away. Mr. Whitaker, administrative leave now. Audit begins immediately. The officials met me after, the room still humming chaotic as Sarah closed her segment. Mr. Johnson, Mr. Parker said, hand extended. We're pausing acceleration and enforcement on your file. Independent re-underwriting in 7 days. Ms. Caldwell added, Trust transfer initiated today, funds next business day. Relief hit me hard, knees weak, but I nodded thanks. The media capturing Whitaker's exit under glares. I called Lena driving home, voice thick. It's over. He's on leave, investigations rolling, foreclosure paused, money tomorrow. She cried joyful. You did it, Marcus. Kids can't wait. Hurry. Over the following months, regulators dug in, lawsuits filed from me and the witnesses, investigations leading to penalties that followed Whitaker, his termination sealed. Career ended as the news replays haunted him, reputation collapsing under the weight. For us, the trust department initiated the wire, and the $50 million hit our account the next business day, letting me pay debts, fix the tractor, build irrigation against the drought, fields blooming green. Suppliers returned humbled, and I launched the community fund for fair lending, aiding Calvin, Mike, and others. Standing on my land that evening, Lena beside me, Jamal and Keisha playing free. I said it firm, no one's color determines their worth. Prejudice had poisoned him, but truth prevailed. A lesson cutting deep. Fairness builds empires, bias buries them. Whose side are you on? Comment Johnson if you believe telling the truth is never wrong. Comment silence if you think sometimes silence is a way to protect yourself. Now, let me ask you honestly, if you were threatened, slandered, or forced to accept money to lie, would you have the courage to say no? Tell me about a time in your life when you were forced to remain silent to avoid trouble. If this story reminds you that your voice also has value, please like to support those who dare to speak up. Share so that one more person doesn't have to bow their head, and subscribe because this world needs more people like Johnson. X.